Glippies! Today we're going to be making handwiches. I know a lot of you have been super excited for this, and we're going to be making it today. We're going to be starting off with the filling for the handwiches. For this one, we're going to be doing Walt's chili recipe. I got this from the D23 website. I am making a half batch for myself. You can do a double batch, a regular batch, or half batch like I'm doing, and so I'll show you how to do a half batch. To get started, we need 1 onion. I'm very much so about cooking from the heart rather than following an exact recipe. I know cooking is a science, so is baking, but it's okay to have a little bit of fun with it, right? Okay, so with this, we have 1 full onion. Next, we'll be preparing half a cup of celery. The full recipe calls for a full cup, but because I'm making a half-size recipe for myself, I only need half of a cup. I'm not exactly sure how many celery stalks that'll be, but I have quite a few here that are ready for me. When you are preparing your celery, always make sure you wash it beforehand because there can be like bugs and dirt inside the celery, which is not great. I also have a trash bowl, or I at least call it a trash bowl. It's for like all the odds and ends while you're cooking, so you can have a nice clean atmosphere because it's important to maintain a clean cooking environment. So here we have half a cup of celery, nice and ready for us. With that, that is all the prep work done. Now that we have everything nice and prepped, we can go ahead and start cooking. We have a pan here that has been heated to 350 degrees. This is an electric skillet. You can use a pot, you can use a pan. I know there's specific ones, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm using. I am going to put in half a cup of oil. I am using avocado oil, but please feel free to use your oil of choice. To that, I'm going to be adding in the onion. Making sure I get every last little piece of onion out of there. I am also going to be putting in our garlic. This is about a teaspoon, maybe a little bit over a teaspoon of garlic. If you like garlic, feel free to add more. We're just going to be sauteing these a little bit until our onions get soft. Once the onions have been softened is when we'll be adding in our ground beef. I used a pound of ground sirloin. That is just my preferred type of ground beef, but you can use other types of ground beef or other ground meats such as turkey or pork. At this point, you can see that the garlic has started to brown a bit. The onions are getting nice and soft. Just important to keep stirring it and keep an eye on it. At this point, the onions have softened. They've also gotten a little bit of color on them, just like the garlic. So now is the time to add in your ground beef. As I mentioned earlier, I am using a pound of ground sirloin. You can use whatever type of beef you would like. And you're just going to be browning this. And we will not be straining the beef once it's brown. That fat is going to be part of the base for the chili, kind of like a roux. We have it mostly browned at this point, but you want to make sure you get everything nice and brown because it's the base. It will continue to cook while it is simmering, but it's important to get a nice brown on everything just to start out with. This recipe is from Walt's Chili. Originally, it was just canned chili, but Disney made a special recipe just for Walt's Chili, and that's what we're making today. So now everything is nice and brown. Everything is cooked. The onions are soft. Everything is nice and mellowed together. At this point, we're going to add in the rest of our ingredients. We're going to be adding in that half a cup of celery. We are going to be adding in our spices. In here is half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. You can use regular paprika. I just used smoked because I thought it'd give a nice flavor. Half a teaspoon of chili powder and half a teaspoon of dry mustard. We'll be mixing these in. We're going to mix a little bit of chili in there. Okay. And finally, we're going to be adding 1 can of tomatoes. I chose diced tomatoes. You can use full tomatoes or diced. I chose diced because it just works better for chili in my opinion. You do not strain it, you add the liquid right on in. We'll be mixing this all together. Make sure we get those spices evenly distributed. And in case you couldn't hear with all the bubbling going on, we added in half a cup of celery. We added in 1 can of diced tomatoes, which is 14.5 ounces. With the liquid, we added in half a teaspoon of dry mustard, half a teaspoon of chili powder, and half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. Now this is everything that our chili is. So from here, I'm just making sure everything's nice and stirred in. But the big thing from here is we're going to have to wait on the chili. From here, I'm also going to be turning down the temperature a bit. So it's not boiling and it'll just be a nice simmer. I'll also be covering it. We'll be leaving this to simmer for 1.5 hours. So while this is simmering, let's go ahead and make the cones for our handwiches. Okay, now for the handwich cone portion. I'm going to be using these waffle cones as a base. So what we're going to do with these is we're going to take some foil. We're just going to wrap it around the waffle cone. It doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just be nice and wrapped around. And we can cut all the extra foil right inside the cone itself. It doesn't need to be perfectly smooth. We're just using this as a shape. See? So I will be making a couple of these real fast. Just be careful. The cones are a little bit fragile. You don't want to be cracking them. There's 2 cones. Once you have your waffle cones ready, you can start on the next part. You can make the dough from scratch. I personally did not see any need to after I made the chili from scratch. So I just got a canned croissant roll. So we're going to be trying to get these to go together. You could roll this out with a rolling pin. I don't have a rolling pin because I don't really have enough space for one. So we're just going to be smushing these sides together. We're going to want to try and make this pretty long. The recipe in the book says about 26 inches long. We're gonna try doing this my way. The one's about an inch long strip, or an inch wide strip. Probably a little bit wider than an inch. That is way too thin. I'm gonna set him aside. In theory, I think I could just take this strip, just add him on. It's probably a good length. I went and generously coated this with cooking spray in my sink because I didn't want to get spray everywhere. Okay, so we're supposed to start wrapping this at the top, overlapping as you go. I want to make sure I have a nice cone covering here. Oops. May not be the prettiest thing. And I realized it came detached. I think that's okay. We're just gonna reattach with this piece. We'll push them together. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't need to be beautiful, it just needs to be done. Okay. I think that's pretty decent. There's one guy right there. Okay, now that we have these all nice and wrapped up, I have some egg here, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of an egg wash. I do not have a basting brush, so I'm just going to be using a paper towel. Not the best tool, but it can be done. Sometimes we gotta use what we have. Now both of these have been egg washed and wrapped. I'm going to be putting these in a 350-degree oven for 15 minutes or until golden brown. These have cooled for about 10 minutes. We can take a look at these. We have this one, it busted a little bit, but overall not too bad. This one is in perfect condition. It's nice and golden brown, looks very pretty. We're going to gently pull the cone out. There we go. As you can see, we have a nice cone shape. It's staying up on its own. It's nice. There is this massive hole here, but it's still fully edible. Okay, now that it has been about an hour and a half, 2 hours, our chili here is done. Nice and soft, nice and juicy. Our flavors are all incorporated together. Our cone here. Grab my cheese. We have our Handwich cone. Now here's the true test. Be able to stand up to the meat. Just fill this right on up. All this nice, delicious chili. I'm going to go ahead and top it with a bit of cheese. Look, we have a Handwich. A beautiful, beautiful Handwich. I'm so happy. It's actually stable. It's actually holding the meats in. Isn't it beautiful? Is this everything you wanted from a Handwich? I actually made it, you guys. Okay, let's go ahead and take a taste. Try not to make a mess. Mmm. Really nice, because the cone gives you something nice and bready. The meat is nice and flavorful from the chili, from the mustard, from the paprika. All the vegetables really melded together. Mm. And the cheese on top just makes it perfect. Look how good it is. It's even staying together after I took a bite. I was afraid it'd fall apart after it. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed watching how to make a Handwich with me and actually succeeding in making a full Handwich. Full Handwich to enjoy. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye, Gloopies!